I spent $5,789 testing the cost cap function here in Facebook ads, and I found a strategy that works great for getting the most return out of your ad spend. I'm going to share that with you guys right here and cover how I tested it and what I ran. But first, if you like this marketing experiment and want more marketing experiments like this from me that I run with my own money, give me a like on this video and help keep the momentum going with a subscribe. Now, let's talk about this real quick here, because if you've used the cost cap function, well, you know that things don't always work out the way you plan them to. Sometimes and oftentimes the cost cap means that your ads just stop running and stop working. Sometimes they go haywire for a few days and have a good day, a horrible day, a good day, a horrible day, and then stop working. But ultimately, I've found that many advertisers struggle with getting this cost cap functionality to work, and I did too, which is why I started testing a bunch of different methods. And well, I'm sharing with you here the method that works for me and what I found was working effectively well and did a great job at spending my money there. And I say that with a tone of sarcasm. I did make a return on this money. Now, the interest in cost cap has to do with the fact that typically as you scale and increase your budget, your conversion costs typically increase with that, right? Well, that's not good if we're running an ad set and it's getting good conversion cost, and then we increase the budget and the conversion cost goes up. Well, we could be out of money depending on what our return on ad spend is, right? It could run us into the negative. That happens. And then people start doing all these little gimmicky things like duplicating ad sets and multiple different audiences, and they call it quote unquote horizontal scaling. I will tell you, horizontal scaling is absolutely Muppet business in the advertising world. There are advertisers out there, myself included, cranking out ad sets at $3,000 a day with broad targeting and, doing none of that Muppet business here. But anyways, for the sake of this, I'm looking at cost cap to control that conversion cost as we increase. And as I said, cost cap usually stops working for most people, and it did for me. So I wanted to see if we can get cost cap to work with a different approach. So let's talk about the common approaches to cost cap. And rather than using an animated kind of fly-in for these, I'm just going to note them out. First, a lot of people just stick a cost cap on. That's the first strategy. So if you want, conversions at $10 each, some people just stick that cost cap on at $10 and say, all right, let's run that. Some people do what I like to call a bottom-up top cost cap. Bottom up. And then that would be basically, whereas if you're, wanting to get your cost cap at $10, I've seen people, come in and be like, well, let's just put it at 3 or 4 and see what happens. And, then we can always increase it from there. That typically fails as well. Both of these fail because right off the bat, the Facebook advertising platform is not getting enough data. So you're putting a thing on it saying, do this, it can't do that. It just stops working, or it doesn't have enough historic data to do it. So what I'm going to be testing here is what I'm going to call a top-down strategy. And as the name implies, and as you could probably figure from, the two other strategies that I just mentioned there, what we're going to do is we're going to put a high cost cap on it and then slowly bring the cost cap down over the course of time. Okay, so we're going to high cost cap slowly. Every couple days, we're going to adjust the budget down just a little bit. So for the test, I'm going to take 2 ad sets. One of them is going to have no cost cap on it. The other will have the cost cap applied using our top-down strategy here, moving the cap slowly down to the target, right? So this is a split test of 2 ad sets. And the reason why I'm interested in this, or not why I'm interested, but why I'm doing this, is so that we can see the difference between maximized conversions and then also the cost cap, right? So how does it actually perform differently? And in some cases, I've heard people say, well, maximized conversions just performs better, so I don't bother with the cost cap. Well, as you're going to see, that is not necessarily true here. And I'll tell you, my cost cap worked quite well when I'm following this strategy. So let's jump into it here. Let's pull things up here. And I'm not going into the ads manager. I screenshotted all this stuff because it's just easier for me to do it and keeps me on point, keeps me focused and on track when I'm going through a kind of a linear slide progression here. So let's just jump into it here. Hey, real quick, the numbers in this video get really small. So to get the most out of it and so you can see the numbers, Set the video player to 1080p and then maximize your screen so you can see all little numbers and details that I'm covering in this video. Now let's jump back to it. And we'll start with the first week and we'll first talk about it. I was running ad sets for conversions for basically insurance leads. And I've covered up so that you guys can't see what specific niche of insurance that is, because I don't want a bunch of people out there saying, oh my gosh, this is how Corey's making money in the insurance space with this niche insurance product. But it is a niche insurance product that I'm running leads for, and I ultimately do sell the leads. So covered up the fine details, but it is in the insurance space. Runs them to a landing page where it captures the user's information and several questions. So it's a pretty rigorous form that they have to fill out. And then when they get through that form and reach a thank you page, it triggers a conversion. Okay. So for the first week when I started running this, which would have been February 2nd to the February 8th, I ran the ad set just for maximize conversions. Okay, and that's why I blurred this out here, because I was taking the screenshot after things had changed, which I'm going to explain to you in a second. So this ad set had ran for a week under maximize conversions, and you can see we got 79 conversions at $9.21 each. Very good cost for me here. I like that cost. If we can stay at $9 or a little bit above it, I am 110% happy, and I will rip this thing up, and take the budget as high as I can get it. All right. And over that first week, spent $927. And because it got more than 50 conversions, it completed the learning phase. So I cannot stress this enough. The learning phase. So many people out there set up ad sets. They've got too small of budgets. They let it run for a couple days and like, oh my gosh, this thing isn't working. Or they let it run for a week and they don't complete the learning phase because the budget's too small. And they have some days where they get good conversions, some days where they get bad conversions. And then they basically say this thing isn't working. You cannot assess anything in Facebook ads that has not completed the learning phase. And you can't assess anything on less than a 7-day period. I say that so much in all my videos, and when I'm talking about Facebook ads, like people do this. They'll go into groups and they'll say, "Oh my God, my ad stopped running this morning," or my cost per conversion when I woke up was $1,000, or not 1,000, but like 100, right? Usually it's getting conversions at $10. I'm like, you're 8 hours into the day here. Like, what? Don't worry about this stuff. I don't even look at my ad performance on less than a weekly basis. And yeah, completing the learning phase. So we let the ads run for a week. We completed the learning phase. We got the 79 conversions. It's time to apply a cost cap. Okay. So on February 10th, what I did was I took the ad set that had been running, this one right here. So this is the original campaign. I took the one that was running and I duplicated it. So now we have this one, right? In the original campaign that had completed the learning phase, I applied a cost cap at $20. That was just simply based on the fact that it was a little bit more than double my conversion cost under maximize conversions. So I applied the $20 cost cap, ran it as a split test with a new ad set that would have no cap. And this was on February 10th. And you can see right off the bat here, on February 10th, with the cost cap applied, that ad set damn near didn't even run. It only spent $11.92, got one conversion, no cap, took off with a bang, as the performance would imply based on the past performance right there on February 10th. So let's just kind of go on from there. And over the 10th to the 12th with the $20 cost cap, our cost cap ad set would continue to improve and, get some more data in here, but no cap was still kind of really kicking its ass at this point still. All right, so things are still happening. And then we'll go on from the 12th to 14th, right? So I ran it to the 10th to the 12th. We got about 2.5 days of data. I mean, I didn't, set these cost caps right at midnight. I would typically do it late in the evening or early in the morning. I don't exactly know, but for this period, it was primarily at $20. So it ran 2.5 to 3 days here with the $20 cost cap. Then we moved it down to 18 for the 12th to 14th. And at this point, things still continue on. What we can see is that with the $18 cost cap, it's still spending its entire budget right here, the same amount of budget as the no cap variation. And the budget may have been lower, because what is this, 3 days? Yeah, the budget was slightly lower than $144. I think it was about $100 a day here. I did increase the budget in between when this campaign was, or when these ad sets were running and when I took these screenshots. So they were a little bit lower than this 144, as I said there at one point. But anyways, you can see that they were running, spending the money, and then the cost cap the ad set with the cost cap was still getting a higher cost per lead, but that said, that's just kind of the name of the game. We were still not anywhere near our cost cap. So going forward, we continued to decrease the budget, and I skipped a couple days ahead from the 14th to the 18th. There was another step in there, but I figured it wasn't necessarily worth, covering all of that. From the 18th to the 21st, they ran with a $12 cost cap, right? And here we can still see that the cost cap variation is still spending most of its budget. That's what we wanted to do. They're spending about the same, almost $480. But with the cost cap, we're at this point getting the leads cheaper, $8.47 per conversion on this one. So doing pretty well. Cost cap is doing its thing, right? Now, the 21st, we take the cost cap down even further here. And at this point, we're getting conversions at $7.33 with the $10 cost cap applied. That's quite a bit cheaper than where it is with no cap. And, as we're going through this progression of screenshots, you're probably noticing that this ad set with no cap on it, the cost per result does kind of tend to increase here as we go on. And that's very characteristic. These ad sets for the very first couple days or weeks, even at this point, it's been running for 2 weeks. So the very first few days could have a very low cost per result, but they do go up if you're not controlling the cost. All right. So with a $10 cost cap, it's doing its thing and it's working, right? Now we can start to see the difference here in the amount spent. So with the $10 cost cap, it's limiting the amount of money that it's spending every day. It's not spending the entire budget because the budgets were the same. So it should be, around $500. So at a $10 cost cap, it's going to start limiting itself. Or I shouldn't say it's going to. It's going to depend on your ad set. But, in my case, it was limiting it. So at this point on the 24th, I went ahead and applied a $9 cost cap, which is where I really wanted things to go. And I let this run for a week, the 24th through the 3rd of March, okay? And here's the results. And this is really what we want to see here, because at this point, we've got a cost cap applied. It's working. How did things happen? Well, you can see with the cost cap, we had a cost per result of $9.42. Without the cost cap, we had a cost per result of $13.13. So without the cost cap on it, the cost per result was about roughly a third higher, 33% higher. You can see we did not spend all of our budget, right? So, if we were spending all of our budget, they had the same budgets over the week, they'd both be about $1,140. While the no cost cap did spend all of its budget, with the cost cap, it did not. But the total lead count was about the same here. So that was pretty good. So we are getting our money's worth out of this. That said, if we were to continue to increase this budget here, who knows really what would happen? I shouldn't say who knows what would happen. It would probably, it's hard to say. What we know it's going to do here is increase, or it's going to keep the cost per result about the same, $9.42. So it wasn't exactly $9, it was a few cents above it, 42 cents above it, but that's still fine for me. But if we were to continue running this, and let's just say increase the budget to $1,000 per day, it would still perform right around that cost cap. And I know this because I've ran this on other ad sets. So even though I'm doing this as a little test and experiment, I kind of already knew, what the outcome was going to be. Because this is something I'd been overall testing in various ways for months, but I figured it was ultimately best to kind of break it off into its own little case study here, right? So we could, in theory, increase that budget to $1,000 per day. And some days I've seen it where it'll spend like 50, and then other days it'll spend hundreds, right? But the important thing is that it controls things in the cost cap. And that's the same one. I just duplicated that. So what can we take away from this? Well, number one, cost cap drill down works. I mean, you can see it here in action, and you can see the ultimate end performance of it. Drilling down the cost cap keeps everything running. It keeps your ad set running. It keeps you getting the conversions that you need, and ultimately when you get down to the target cost cap that you want, it will work, provided your target cost cap is just not radically lower than any of your conversion cost is. All right, and you must start by completing the learning phase. I can't stress this enough. Going back to the very beginning of this here, where I let things run for a week, completed the learning phase, and then applied the cost cap. If you don't complete the learning phase, your ads will pretty much always fizzle out when you stick the cost cap on it. And finally, you must analyze over a period of time. So I said no less than 7 days. I look at my Facebook ad performance on a period of no less than 7 days. So what I did here is I took the performance of this ad set with the cost cap from this period, March 24th to March 3rd, and the $9 cost cap, and I just put it in here, right? And I put the total lead count and the cost per lead. And you can see that while our total average over this period of time was $9.42 per conversion, or per lead, you can see it varies wildly, right? So we had a day where they were $5.96, $13.72, up at a high of $15.83, and then back down to $7.17. But over this full 7-day period, it came close to our $9 cost cap at $9.42. So in other words, when you are looking at your performance, don't look at it and say, oh my gosh, my performance here was $15.83 and my cost cap was $9. I think it's the end of the world. I think I want to turn things off. What should I do? What should I change? How do I fix it? Well, the way to fix it is you do nothing and you keep going and look at it over a longer period of time. So guys, that's how this cost cap strategy works, and I found it incredibly effective. What do you think? Are you guys going to implement this cost cap strategy on your Facebook ads? Let me know in the comments below. And again, if you want more marketing insights and experiments from me, these ones that I run with my own money, give me a like on this video, give me a subscribe button, help keep the momentum of this channel going, and look for the No Bullshit Marketing group where I interact and share all of these links and what I got going on. That's a wrap on this video, guys. I hope you found it helpful and insightful. I'm signing off.